Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hello and welcome once again to Cheap Shot Entertainment. This is our dedicated wrestling channel. Also go and check out our dedicated gaming channel, which is Cheap Shot Entertainment System, and of course our dedicated movie channel, Quick Shot Reviews. Today I'm going to go through my thoughts on AEW Revolution from the 7th of March. It was from Daly's Place, as per usual, the home of the Jacksonville Jaguars, or attached to at least, and that was in Jacksonville, Florida. So please join us for the main part of the video, and I'm going to go through everything that happened at AEW Revolution. So we begin the proceedings with the AEW Tag Team Championships being defended by the Young Bucks, Nick and Matt Jackson, against the number one contenders, the winners of the tag team tournament to crown the number one contenders, that is Y2J, Chris Jericho, La Demo God, Le Champion, and MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, who have been ultimately entertaining outside the ring. Well, this was the first time that they got to prove that they could be just as entertaining inside the ring against the tag team champions. And of course this has put upheaval in the inner circle, because the tag team specialists, Santana and Ortiz, were nowhere to be seen, because you would expect them to be going for the championship. But I think eventually this is going to lead to MJF doing the Rock and taking over the inner circle. It just depends how it's going to be, with Y2J being so damn cool. Anyway, this one was, hate to say it, I think it was slightly disappointing with these two teams, with such a contrast in styles. The Young Bucks they work well with other teams that are the same kind of style, so your Lucha Brothers, people like that. But it wasn't a terrible match by any means, but they don't sort of work well with contrasting styles. So this one, although it was a lot of heat taken by the Young Bucks, as per you would expect from a match like this, Young Bucks being the tag team champions, being the face team, they had a little bit of a heelish kind of turn where they were super kicking everybody and slapping their legs, which is a big no-no in the company that are rivals currently to AEW, or at least AEW want them to be rivals, and that company is, well, it doesn't need to be. It was just lacking something I couldn't quite put my finger on. It wasn't a bad match at all, but ultimately the Young Bucks do retain with the Meltzer driver and a lack of super kicks, which is great, because I'm sick of the damn thing, because it's every 5 seconds. Even the music is super kick party. I mean, come on, you've got to have some different moves to that. But usually I find the Young Bucks quite entertaining. Lately they've been in between. I thought when they did all those super kicks to all the talent backstage that they were going to turn and be more interesting in the way they delivered as tag team champions, and it just didn't happen. And then on the fringe of that, you've also got the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega. So the Good Brothers keep coming down and working with the Young Bucks, but you don't know at what point that the Good Brothers are going to turn, and I suppose that's a good thing. But yeah, this match just, it lacked something that I was expecting it to be something really special, and it kind of wasn't. So I'm going to give this one 3 cheap shots out of 5. And like I say, it was not a bad match at all. I say it was a good match. Two teams who know how to turn on the style in different types of matches. But it did have a good ending to what was a great story. You know, MJF and Y2J attacking Papa Buck. Don't know if that's his real name. I don't know. attacking Papa Buck and making him bleed and taking away in the ambulance, and this was the great redemption for the Young Bucks, but I just feel like it was rushed. I think this could have gone for a little bit longer. I know AEW don't have pay-per-views every month, but I still think this was a little bit rushed. Next, we have a Casino Tag Team Battle Royal for the number one contendership for the Tag Team Championships. Now, this really did showcase how strong the Tag Team division is in AEW, and this was the perfect way to do and to showcase all of these talents in one match, and it's a perfect way to do sort of a rumble with tag teams rather than having them all in the ring all at once. Introduce them as they go along, so it's a bit like Battle Royal Rumble, and with only one member of the team, both members of the team rather, having to go out, it could tell a bit of a story. Now, the only thing here, although I found this quite entertaining, this match, because it was done the right way for the showcase of the tag division, but there was so much going on and so many bodies in the ring all at the same time. The thing that I really like about Battle Royals and Rumbles and things like that, having seen many of them, is that you usually get some fun eliminations, some surprise entrance, and there was no surprise entrance, and all the eliminations were by the books. So I'm going to go down here to through all of the So I'm going to go through all of the participants here in the Tag Team Battle Royal, starting with the Natural Nightmares versus the Dark Orders, number 5 and number 10. Number 10 has been really quite impressive recently, and the Natural Nightmares, of course, are Dustin Rhodes and can't think of the other guy's name, but he used to go out with the Bunny. Forgettable, really. Forgettable and regrettable. So they are in first and they fight for a couple of minutes. Santana and Ortiz come in of the Inner Circle. Those three tag teams go at it for 2 minutes. Number 5 goes out, but of course the first team in the Dark Order, 5 and 10, are not eliminated because both members of the team have to go out. The Seidels are in next, the two Seidel brothers, Matt and the other one, and Stu Grayson and Evil Uno make up the Dark Order's numbers with the second tag team entry into this Battle Royal. And maybe I will rescind this showcases the tag team division of AEW, because there was no less than 3 teams from the Dark Order. Gun Club next, Austin and Colton Gunn, of course the sons of Billy Gunn, the badass one, Billy Gunn, and the Seidel brothers are both out at this point, with the younger Seidel brother going out first, followed by older brother Matt, who didn't slip off the ropes this time, which was a definite plus. Avalon and Benoni, Peter Avalon and Cesar Benoni. You may know Benoni from NXT when he was in that, and he was doing pretty well for himself. I think he got moved to the main card actually, and then just sort of fizzled out. And here he is in AEW, the huge Brazilian guy with lots of muscles, and thinks he's something special. Varsity Blondes next, featuring the son of Flying Brian Pillman, which is obviously where they get the names from, because Brian Pillman, his dad, was in a tag team called the Hollywood Blondes, one of my favourite tag teams in fact from WCW. He was in a tag team called the Hollywood Blondes with none other than stunning Steve Austin, otherwise known as Stone Cold Steve Austin. QT Marshall is the other member of the Natural Nightmares, and he eliminates himself after throwing over the other two people in the Nightmare Family, which are the Gun Club. So they had a little bit of a spat, and QT Marshall eliminated himself, leaving, of course, Dustin Rhodes on his own in this match to fight for that number one contendership. But if he won, what would happen with that number one contendership? I suppose Cody would probably come in or something. Bronson and Boulder, the Bear Country Boys, come in next. These two guys are it's like a tag team of Dave Mastiffs. That's the only way I can describe it. Really cool. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. I'm not going to do that anymore. Really catchy song, and I can't get it out of my head. And yeah, I think that's done its job really. It's really got Jungle Boy over, and Luchasaurus in fact, and both of these guys were pretty over before that anyway. Ortiz goes, Benoni goes out as well, Butcher and Blade come in, so we get to see the bunny as well, which is really, really cool. The Varsity Blondes both are eliminated next, followed by Dustin Rhodes, and Private Party comes in, followed by SCU, which is Kazarian and Chris Balls. That's not his name, I'll remember it eventually. Been a long day. It's been a very long day. Luchasaurus and Bear Country all go out pretty much simultaneously here, with Luchasaurus being eliminated first and then Bear Country. Death Triangle come out as well. Cool, man. I like it. Pac and not Pentagon Jr. Ray Phoenix. I can't roll my tongue. Ray Phoenix come out. Blade and Mark Quinn go out next. But of course, there's only one member of each team gone out, and that means that they are still in, but they've gone out. So try and figure that one out in between the cracks there. Yeah. Silver and Reynolds come in next. That is team number 3 from the Dark Order. Cassidy and Private Party go out. That is Orange Cassidy and Private Party. And no, it's not Orange Cassidy actually. He's in the other match that is coming up. Butcher gone. Christopher Daniels, that's it. Christopher Daniels is gone. Reynolds goes out. Kazarian goes out. That means SCU is gone. Silver out. So that's all 3 teams of the Dark Order. Maybe they're trying to do like 3 faces of Mick Foley type thing. I don't know. Silver goes out. Jungle Boy eliminates Pac. So 1/2 of the Death Triangle, or 1/3 of the Death Triangle, 1/2 of the team goes out. Phoenix eliminates Jungle Boy next, so the Jurassic Express are gone, and Death Triangle are number 1 contenders as Phoenix and Pac celebrate in the middle of the ring. I'm really looking forward to this match. It will be Death Triangle, Pac and Ray Phoenix versus the Young Bucks on this week's Dynamite. So, wow, I'm looking forward to that one, and this match deserves no less. I really enjoyed it, no less than a 4. Way better than it should have been, and a great way to conduct a multi-team format in a match. Really good, recommend this one. Moving on, it is the AEW Women's Championship on the line. Rio Mizunami versus Hikaru Shida, and Mizunami, of course, won the AEW Women's Tournament, become number 1 contender rather. And it was made a big deal about this because they had a Japanese bracket and an American bracket, but a lot of Japanese wrestlers were wrestling in the American bracket. But yeah, there was lots of really good talent brought over from the women's divisions over in Japan, and those girls can beat you up in a heartbeat. And this match was absolutely awesome. The best women's match I've seen for a very long time, and certainly the best women's match I've seen in AEW to date, because as soon as all those Japanese wrestlers go back to their home country, we've got a very limited women's division once again. But I really did welcome the difference between the American AEW women's division and the Japanese AEW women's division, because these two girls did not pull punches. Women, they were scrapping. There was no hair pulling, there was no diva-ish tendencies, they were just beating the snot out of each other like Ripley on a Friday night. Brilliant, ultimately entertaining, and there's nothing I like more than to see women wrestlers wrestling rather than being in bikini contests. Not that that is a thing anymore, but my teenage brain said bikini contest. Now it's, we're even Stevens. Just got to build that division up now. So Shida's actually got some credible contenders, because they are running out very, very quickly. So after these two women beat the snot out of each other, telling a story that's spanning 10 years, where Mizunami beat up Shida back in Japan, Shida picks up the victory. Sorry, there's no more information on this one, because I was absolutely hooked on this match. It was really, really, really good. And Shida did pick up the victory in the end after a hard-fought, hard-hitting women's match with her equal, with her Japanese sister, if you like. Once the match was finished, Nyla Rose would come out and attack, and both of the champion and the contender here, followed by Rebel, Britt Baker, and another Japanese wrestler who I didn't quite catch the name of. Probably should have researched that first before doing this video. And the two ladies in the ring, Mizunami and Shida, saved by Thunder Rosa as she comes out to make the save. Of course, Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker have a storied rivalry at this point, and I'm surprised that wasn't on the card as well. So really good Smash Mouth women's wrestling, possibly the second best match, singles match on the card. I say second best singles match, probably the best singles match on the card actually, and I'll explain my reasons for that later on. I'm going to give this one 3.5 cheap shots out of 5, because it was ultimately very entertaining and, like I said, the best women's match on AEW to date. So there you go, that's my thoughts on the AEW Women's Championship. So next up we get another tag team match, but Miro and Kip Sabian attack the best friends Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy in the back. And yeah, I'm not talking about the shoes when I say Chuck Taylor. It is actually a wrestler in AEW, but you guys will know that because you are wrestling fans, hopefully. And even if you're not, I'm glad you're watching the video. Click subscribe. Anyway, it is Miro and Kip Sabian, flanked by the lovely Penelope Ford. Of course, Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford are now kayfabe married, with Miro being the best man, which is also the name of his character. So yeah. This match fell flat. The attack before the match, you think that would lead up to Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor getting revenge. It didn't. Not that I mind the finish, because it does make Miro look like a beast, but at this point I love Kip Sabian, because not only is he English, but I've also seen him many times on British independent circuits, and he is phenomenal. Because Miro has come over to big fanfare, they're not really doing anything with him. They've got him paired with Kip Sabian. They're not really doing anything with either of these two. I think a split is on the cards, and Kip Sabian going face doesn't quite sit well with me, but really strong finish for Miro, who made Chuck Taylor submit. But Orange Cassidy would eventually come out of the back after being slammed on one of the hard cases in the back, gave a orange punch to Miro as he came down the ramp, and he dived to the outside. But it would be the don't know what they're calling it, but I'm going to go with Jim Ross on this one. It's the Accolade, which is the high angle chin lock thing, Russian thing. It's been a long day. You're going to hear me say that quite a lot. And they get the win after Chuck Taylor submits. So Miro would employ some dirty tactics with his partner's wife on this one, because he would chuck Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy into Penelope, and as Kip Sabian was on the outside attending to them, attending to his wife, Miro would get the win. So where does this leave us? Is Kip Sabian going to be seeing that video back and starting a rivalry? Is this going to be Miro wanting the full amount of attention on him, which has been the case? But I'm going to give this match 2 cheap shots out of 5. Ultimately very disappointing, and not much of a payoff considering the wedding being ruined and things like that. So massive setup, very little payoff in this. So we next have the big money match between Matt Hardy, that is big money Matt Hardy, and the Hangman Adam Page, in which the winner would take the first quarter of the losers' wages for 2021. An interesting match stipulation, obviously with the story being told here, big money Matt trying to get Hangman to sign a contract with him where that would give him complete control pretty much of his take-home pay, and Hangman switching the contracts out so that Matt Hardy would be doing that for Hangman Page. And now Matt Hardy has to give Hangman all of the first quarter of his wages for 2021, because Hangman Adam Page won. Again, focus on the arm here of Hangman Adam Page, because that is the arm that he would deliver the buckshot with. Good strategy here by the much more heelish Matt Hardy as we're moving along in the storyline. Trapping the Hangman's arm in the stairs a la Bayley and Sasha Banks from NXT looked absolutely nasty. You can tell these two have been in the circuit for quite some time and worked together many times to give that amount of trust to someone. Hardy is always managing to stay on top on this one. Every time Hangman Adam Page gets a little bit of hope going, Matt Hardy cuts him off completely. Private Party do eventually get involved. It was on the cards, one at one side of the ring, one at the other. Hangman Page fights them off. Hangman hits the reverse tombstone, and the buckshot is reversed into a side effect, and we get an ear fall. Hangman Adam Page can't overcome the numbers. The Dark Order run down to the ring and do a sort of Adam Rose hope spot thing where, I trust spot, that's the one. He falls back and Dark Order put him back on the ring. He hits the buckshot lariat and wins the match. He takes home all of Matt Hardy's first quarter pay for 2021. So I'm going to give this match 3 cheap shots out of 5. It was ultimately a very good match, and like I said, you could tell that these two have worked together before. The chemistry was there, the trust was there, just lacking in the fizz department considering the storyline. It was Matt Hardy trying to get Hangman drunk so he could take all of his money. Okay, so a gimmick match, another gimmick match in this pay-per-view full of gimmicks. They might as well just call it the Gimmick Revolution. Because we've got a ladder match now, and usually I love ladder matches, and the participants in this match would usually get me really quite excited. We've got Cody, Pentagon Jr., Lance Archer, which, sometimes there has to be the big guy in there, but he was never realistically going to be the winner in this one. Platinum Max Caster, again a new face to AEW, been quite impressive on Dynamite in his tag team outing. Scorpio Sky, the favourite for this one, and the mystery man Ethan Carter. Not Ethan Carter, Ethan Page. It's not Ethan Carter, that's EC3. EC3. Ethan Page from Impact Wrestling was the mystery guy. They're going to big it up. I would have thought they might have done something a little bit more with this one, but there you go. It was okay, and the setup for this match was literally grabbing that brass ring. I mean, this was AEW's version of the Money in the Bank match, but at least in a Money in the Bank match you've got a Money in the Bank briefcase that you can cash in at any time over the next year, and I just think this was AEW's attempt to do that, because the person who literally grabbed that brass ring, which was a term coined by Vince McMahon himself for superstars who were just on the cusp but that couldn't quite get there, literally grabbing a brass ring. I expected Sonic the Hedgehog to come down and grab that brass ring, because although he collects gold rings, it was just a giant Sonic the Hedgehog ring. I mean, come on! Couldn't think of anything better than that. I mean, could you just use a briefcase again or something along those lines? But a literal brass ring? Really? And saying that, the match wasn't terribly great either. There was no full-on major spots with people jumping off ladders and things like that. There was a few. Pentagon Jr. was obviously in the match, running up ladders, jumping onto people and things like that. Those bits were entertaining, but ultimately I really don't understand the format of this match and what it was trying to go for. Well, I do, but it wasn't the best ladder match at all by a long shot, and it should have been. It wasn't a bad match either, so I'm going to give this one 3 cheap shots out of 5, with Scorpio Sky picking up the literal brass ring, and he gets a shot at the AEW champion, whoever that should be, by the end of the barbed wire death match exploding thing. So Scorpio Sky wins by picking up the literal brass ring, and yeah, not the best ladder match. Certainly fairly entertaining, but would have been loads better if Sonic had stormed the ring and nicked the brass ring from the top of the ladder, or Robotnik. I mean, come on, it's like you missed an opportunity there, boys. Come on. So, what do we get next? It's an interlude where we get introduced to the Hall of Fame worthy signing by AEW, and it is none other than Captain Charisma, Christian Cage, coming out to his old Impact music as well. Sorry about that, there's a chair in the way and I'm doing all of this kind of stuff. And while I can't disagree with the signing, it was really nice to see Christian being given his shot, which he obviously was never going to get in WWE, with the policy of looking at newer wrestlers now, younger wrestlers, but most of the main card being over 35. and possibly injured, he was never really going to get a shot in WWE. And I think Vince was certainly convinced that he was not medically cleared to have a full sort of comeback. It was nice to see him at the Royal Rumble. Think of the headlines here, you know, the hug that was heard around the world as Christian was one of the last four along with Edge. They hugged and there's like a big reunion. But what we actually got was a goodbye, because Christian Cage, in the space of a month-ish, would turn up in AEW, the competition. But I'm not sure where he's going to fit into the overall hierarchy of AEW. But there you go, they've got Sting wrestling, so maybe he's just going to be a manager to someone. I don't know, but it'd be interesting to see where he's going to fit in on this one. So with that interlude over, we move on to the street fight, and in my opinion this was definitely the best match of the night. It is Brian Cage, the Swolverine, WrestleCrate UK exclusive t-shirt here, and Ricky Starks, who reminds me of a very young Rocky Maivia, versus Darby Allin, the TNT champion, the face of the company literally, and Sting, the 56-year-old veteran wrestler who had a very short spell in WWE before coming over to AEW and being used again, sparingly, I admit. And his music is great, his entrance is brilliant, and it's like Sting never lost a beat in AEW. So they are doing something well on AEW here with a veteran. The fight takes place in a warehouse. Looks like some sort of warehouse sort of club type thing somewhere. I don't know. There's a ring set up in there. Again, I don't know. You get to see the beginning of the match, which is all of the participants making their entrances. Darby Allin on skateboard, of course. Sting driving in a pickup truck. And with Cage and Starks arriving in a green, I think it might have been a Lamborghini. So, I mean, you know, you can see the difference there in styles. I'm not quite sure why they arrived in a green Lamborghini, but it was really nice. It was a good looking car. So, there you go. And I say, it took place in a warehouse. It was very much cinematically cut, so it was pre-taped. It was really weird to hear the commentary try and sound like they were live on this one, because it just didn't work. And bless him, JR had lost his voice before this show even started, so I'm surprised they even had him doing commentary, considering there was Paul White knocking around and he's supposed to be doing commentary elsewhere. You know, give the man a break. He's getting on, and you know, he's got a great voice and everything. He's well known in the wrestling circles as a commentator, but just give the man a break. But this match was cool. It really was. It started off in black and white with Sting and Darby Allin sharing half and half face paint, which was awesome. Half Darby Allin, half Sting, and that was cool. And they came to the ring with a load of thugs dressed up as Sting. They had black hoodies and Sting masks on, and it looked like something from WCW from yesteryear, but it was still pretty cool. They all disappeared because they got beaten up. So I mean, Darby Allin's crew were a bunch of wimps, really. And so we get the start of the match. Darby and Cage pair off along with Sting, and he makes the save for Darby Allin. Starks makes up the numbers. This is after a massive brawl, and they pair off. Sting's beating up Ricky Starks. At one point, Brian Cage, the Swolverine, picks up Darby Allin, and literally he picks him up in a suplex position and walks up the stairs with him and drops him on a bin. That, you'll never see such sort of strength and power in that. And it would be, that's my wrestling trainer just saying well done for my efforts in our training session. Yes, I'm training to be a wrestler, or at least a wrestling manager anyway. So yeah, something I haven't mentioned for quite a while, but yeah, this is where I get my I'd like to say it's knowledge of wrestling, but it's just a love really. Yeah, Starks makes up numbers. Cage goes through a table through a double team, and that gives them the advantage. Darby Allin throws Ricky Starks into or rather he climbs up a beam that's holding up the roof, and coffin drops onto Ricky Starks. It is at this point that Hobbs and Hook, Taz's real life son, come in to make the save, make the interference. There was no need for them. Don't know why Hobbs was wearing a bright orange balaclava. It's not like we didn't know it was him, but there you go. There's one spot here where Darby Allin is given a leg and a wing through a window, and the window falls down and hits him on the head. Kudos to the guy for taking that spot, but it's ultimately very dangerous because it was actually a window. Maybe they were set up to be, sugar glass, that kind of thing, but still, looked nasty, and I really like that spot. I really, really did, and this is the true meaning of street fight. They're in a warehouse. Strangely, they've got a referee. Well, he's there just to count the numbers and the 1, 2, 3, that kind of thing. Hobbs and Hook get taken out with the baseball bat that Darby Allin chucks down to Sting after being left for dead upstairs in this warehouse. Sting takes out everybody with the baseball bat, the black baseball bat. That's when Allin gets chucked through a window. Allin sets up the victory here really by Sting knocking Cage onto a platform in the middle of the warehouse, which is over a pit of some kind, and he drops an elbow drop from an upstairs window onto Brian Cage. Kudos for Brian Cage taking that one. There's a massive elbow drop from the top window by Darby Allin. He takes out Brian Cage and of course takes out himself. Spear from Ricky Starks will get a near fall. We're back in the ring at this point, and a low blow because why not? Ricky Starks is a heel after all. The match would end with a Scorpion death drop on Starks for the win. Darby Allin and Sting are victorious here. Sting does his look over the shoulder thing and signifies the victory, and he looked good in this one. This is by far and away the best match on the card, and it's a cinematic match, and they did really well. The women's match was really good, and it was a decent pay-per-view, I'm not going to lie, it was, but this was the best match of the night. It was very entertaining. I feel like I would go back and watch it again, and only this match really. I'm not AEW's biggest fan, but I watch it because it's available on UK TV for free, and I'm going to give this one 4.5 cheap shots out of 5. It was damn near perfect. It was very entertaining. They used the environment really well. They told a great story, and it's a story that's been told over several months, so it was a slow burn and a satisfying end, and that's what you want in professional wrestling. That's the story you want told, the babyface going over the heel after months and months of torment. That is storytelling, wrestling storytelling at its best, and AEW did it really well here. Great pre-recorded match here for the street fight. Darby Allin and Sting win. To the match that has been advertised and told to us, sold to us as this big thing, and it is an exploding barbed wire death match, a match that's only happened once in Japan and never over in the western shores of the world. But here it is, an exploding barbed wire death match. The setup was made by Kenny Omega and Cyrus. He's not called Cyrus here. Just remember him as Cyrus in WWE, but there you go. Don Callis, that's the one. I knew it was in there somewhere. So yeah, we get an exploding barbed wire death match for the AEW World Championship. Gotta say, it was all show and not much of a payoff, because it's really difficult to set up a match like this and work it and plan it out and things like that, and it does require some planning. You know, you can tell the barbed wire was real, the guys were cut, but there was certain points where they were so cut open that you knew that they'd bladed. And that's a practice that hasn't been around in wrestling, certainly on TV wrestling, mainstream, for a very long time, and for good reason. If you look at Devon Dudley's forehead, for example, from the Dudley Boys, you know why blading was stopped. And yeah, it's disgusting. It really is, especially in times like we're in now. We're in a pandemic. I know they get tested and things like that, but come on. You know, I enjoy the hardcore wrestling and stuff like that, but there's a way to do it where you don't have to wear your insides on your outsides. So that's taking half a cheap shot down straight away. But we get blood loss in this one, with Jon Moxley losing a lot of blood early on in the match. We get powder in the eyes, leading to the first explosion. Of course, Kenny Omega, being the dirty, cheap heel that he is, throws powder in the eyes of Jon Moxley and then throws him into the barbed wire ropes, which leads to an explosion. It's just pyro, really. And I can understand, you know, pyro going off, it's a firework. It can probably lead to some sort of burning or something like that, but it was very controlled, which you have to be these days. And I think that's what ultimately took this down a notch, because you know ultimately that even though this match has been billed as the dirtiest hardcore match that there possibly ever is and ever will be, there will be some degree of safety involved, and that's good. But then you just chuck the guy into a barbed wire fence, which, you know, can't brace for impact on that one. So kudos to the lads on this one. Mox into a barbed wire board. It's set up in the corner. The setup for this match is 3 sets of ropes wrapped in barbed wire, 2 boards in each corner and 3 mortar boards on the outside, although only one of those would be used, which is quite disappointing, really. Omega into the other 2 sets of barbed wire ropes. Well, now when they explained what this match was, I thought there was just one explosion on each rope. There was multiple explosions on each rope, so that was fine. And Kenny gets ripped a new hole, literally, with a side slam on a barbed wire wrapped chair. He comes up, he frees himself from the chair and gives his arse a bit of a rub. Literally ripped him a new hole there and through his jeans. So yeah, nasty. And I've seen a Lego death match which was 10 times worse than this, but we won't go into that. So the explosion, another explosion with Kenny taking the brunt of the smoke in this one, runs the Mox into the ropes, but he's got his head down and the smoke comes up and blinds Kenny Omega. Paradigm shift onto the mortarboards on the outside, so they're fighting on the ring apron, and there's a paradigm shift onto the mortarboards. This is where Kenny gets cut open, and this is why I say, excuse me, that I know that he was blading, because he really didn't go anywhere close to the barbed wire, not anywhere significantly close. In fact, Mox took the brunt of this particular move, laying back first on the mortarboards, which was a piddly little explosion. And ultimately that is where the downfall of this match was. It was perfectly serviceable. It was entertaining, and it was a spectacle, and that's exactly what they wanted it to be. The countdown starts. There's no, well, a noise happens, but there's no actual countdown. Like guessing how long that will be. Even the commentators, is that 10 minutes? Is that 5 minutes counting down? So again, another omission here. Try not to be too negative about this match, but it's really difficult, and I'm not the only one. One-winged angel. Mox kicks out using an explosion from the ropes. So Mox puts his foot on the ropes, that leads to an explosion, and that blinds Kenny Omega again. The Good Brothers with an interference. Think you know my thoughts on interference in matches like this now. Exploding barbed wire baseball bat to the face of the Mox. One-winged angel onto a chair. Don't think this one was barbed wire wrapped, mind. I think that might have been a little bit too much. And Omega picks up the victory. So as Omega picks up the victory and is celebrating in the ring with the Good Brothers, Don Callis, who was on commentary throughout, runs down to the ring, says, look, we've got to get out of here, the ring's going to explode, and there's this big countdown, and everyone's like, whoa, what's going to happen? Good part of this storytelling here is that Eddie Kingston comes down to save his former best friend, and I imagine new best friend again, in John Moxley, who's been handcuffed and left in the ring to take the brunt of this explosion. Kingston then covers Moxley, who can't get out of the ring, but he did have plenty of time to sort of drag him away from the ring. And the weakest explosion that you could, I mean, you can't even call it an explosion. It was, you might as well just had 4 kids at each ring post with sparklers. You know, think Gilbert, think Kevin Nash from 1995, Diesel Power. Because that had more sparks and more explosions than this did. The match itself was a victim of overbooking and overselling, and I can't help but give this match a really quite a weak score, because I will always remember that last bit, all of the lead up, all of the countdowns, Eddie Kingston coming down, having to sell that weak ass explosion, covering Mox, protecting him, and then acting like he was practically dead. So, to be fair to it, I'm going to go 2.5 cheap shots out of 5 for this one. For a main event match, it was kind of entertaining, but I'm sort of beyond the need for like 4 or 5 gimmick matches in a pay-per-view. Even Extreme Rules doesn't have all gimmick matches, but that's a once in a year and you know what you're getting kind of deal. I think this pay-per-view ultimately was a whole victim of overbooking and selling high and then buying high because they just tried too hard. So that is everything that happened at AEW Revolution on the 7th of March 2021 in Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. Ultimately a very entertaining pay-per-view with a very weak finish. Almost like it was shooting the gun a little bit too early, firing blanks, so to speak. But there you go. If you've watched AEW Revolution, please let me know what you thought of the show. What was your favourite match? What was your least favourite match? What did you think of the sparklers at the end? Let me know in the comment section down below, or join us on social media. The links to follow. Once again, I've been your host, Luke. You are the Cheap Shot Nation. This is Cheap Shot Entertainment, and I will see you next time for Fastlane on the road to WrestleMania. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.